Hi, ladies, welcome back to the channel. Today, women are sharing their experiences and their reasons for not wanting to have kids. Let's get into it.
20 Reasons Why I Want to Be Child Free Forever, Part 1. So I made this list yesterday after talking to this really young girl in her early 20s who told me that she's considering not having kids because she didn't really want them, but she wasn't sure that she was making the right decision or what her reasons even were. And so she asked me, because we've known each other for a while, she was like, "What are your reasons for not wanting kids?" And I actually went home and made this list for her. Number one, straight off the bat, is that kids are hard to take care of. Number two, I honestly would not want to have a sick child, like someone who is born sick in some way or another. Number three, you cannot control who your kid turns out to be, especially if they turn out to be a really bad person. Number four, I have so much work to do on myself still that I would not be able to really give a kid the attention that they deserve. Number five is that I lose my temper very quickly, and I would probably hit my kid at some point if they got me really pissed off, and that would probably traumatize them, which I wouldn't want. Number six is that I would not want to live with my heart outside of my body, meaning that because I love them so much, they would be my heart walking around, going places, and worrying me all the time. And I would not be able to live with that. It would give me so much anxiety. Number seven is that they might probably hate me for something I didn't even know I was doing wrong. Like, it happens to so many of us that resent our parents for something that they probably didn't even think was a big deal, or that they just weren't aware that they were doing. Number eight is that I don't think that I would honestly be able to survive the loss of a child if something were to happen to my child. Number nine is that I wouldn't want them to experience the loss of a parent, whether it's their dad or myself, earlier than what's expected, because that can really change the course of a person's life. Number 10 is that I wouldn't want to bring someone into this world who has to figure shit out, who has to figure out what to do, where to work, how to live, and all this shit, because all this shit is stressful, okay? Like, adulthood is stressful as so why would I want someone else to experience that, like, willingly?
Those are all valid points. Like, every single thing that she said is an actual reason to not have a child, especially talking about the way the world is right now. I have one child and I have no intentions of having another because the economy is bad. Rent prices, mortgage prices, the cost of living. I would not want to imagine what it would be like if I had a baby now. What kind of life would that baby have 20, 25 years from now based on how life is right now? I have this pessimistic worldview because I don't see life getting better. And why would I want to have a baby now that's going to have to live life 20 years from now when it's far worse than this? All valid points. And I think if we start to have these conversations where we look into the reasons for having children instead of bashing people who say they don't want to have any or they don't want to have another child, then we would have a better society because we would have less people. We would be having less children, less people who are traumatized, less people who are hungry, less people who are struggling, less people who have to deal with emotional baggage from parents who could not afford to have them and did not take care of them physically, emotionally, and financially. So there is nothing wrong with identifying for whatever reason that you would not or cannot be a good parent and deciding to opt out of having children. There is no badge of honor for having a baby, especially in this economy.
10 benefits of being child free that don't involve kids or parenthood. Number one, greater financial freedom. Without the long term financial responsibilities, child free individuals have more disposable income. This allows for greater investment in personal goals. Number two, more time for self care. Being child free means having more time to focus on personal health and well being without the constant demands of caretaking. Number three, increased career flexibility. Child-free individuals often have the freedom to pursue more ambitious career goals or take personal and professional risks without the need to consider the impact on dependents. Number four, ability to travel freely. With fewer commitments, child-free people often have more flexibility to travel extensively, whether for short trips or long-term stays. Number 5, personal growth and education. Child-free individuals often have more opportunities to invest time and energy into personal growth, continued learning, and education. Number 6, deeper relationships. Without the distractions, there's more time and emotional capacity to invest in other relationships, whether with partners, friends, or extended family. Number 7, environmental impact. Choosing to be child-free can reduce one's environmental footprint. With fewer personal resources demands and smaller carbon footprint, child-free individuals can feel that they are contributing to a more sustainable planet. Number 8, enhanced freedom to relocate. Child-free people can more easily relocate for career opportunities, lifestyle changes, or personal growth. The decision to move to a new city or country can be made with fewer logistical and emotional constraints. And number 10, peace of mind and emotional autonomy. Being child-free can provide a sense of emotional autonomy and peace. Without the stress or emotional labor tied to parenthood, individuals have more control over their emotional well-being and personal happiness.
She has some great points as well. And especially when it comes to like freedom of travel and freedom of relocating, I relocated to a new city and I had to consider so many things in regards to my daughter. I had to consider school that she had to go to. I had to take her from school and move her to a new school, like in the middle of a school term. And I basically had to gather all of her documents and pretty much beg the new principal to let her in, like out of nowhere on a whim in the middle of a school term. And that was really stressful for me because if you have to move for like a job or for any reason, you have to consider your child. Your child has friends that they're going to have to leave behind. Your child's going to have to make new friends. And especially if it's a child that has any sort of like social anxiety or difficulty making friends, that child's going to have a hard time having to move from place to place. And you find out with people who are like military families and they move countries and cities quite often, those people who are now adults, they might have a hard time making friends because they are so used to having a life of, I'm just going to be here temporary in this city, in this town anyway, so I don't need to make friends with anyone. I don't need to talk to anyone. And I'm so glad that at least this generation, we're starting to realize that if we cannot be competent, caring, 100% there, emotionally available, financially ready parents, then we should sit this one out. Because for many of us, our parents and our grandparents had multiple children just back to back, just handy, just kids are just back to back to back. And in the Caribbean, like in Jamaica, my grandma, she had about 8 kids. And my grandfather was like, he worked on a farm and she was a stay-at-home mom. She had 8 kids. And that's on my mom's side. And on my dad's side, I think it's pretty similar. I don't think it's so many kids, but I think she also had a lot of kids. And it's like the generations before, they were just having kids. Like, that's it. That's all that they were taught to do. Just have babies. Have babies. As soon as you become an adult, have babies, have babies. And I'm so happy that we are stepping away from that because a lot of us grew up so traumatized and we are recognizing that a lot of the trauma that we had comes from our childhood. And we don't want to pass that on to our children, and rightfully so.
Don't you want to have kids? No, I don't. I'm the eldest daughter in a Mexican family. I've already raised a kid that wasn't even mine, and it was my sister. My mom was a single mom. She also worked, and, she had moments where she was really depressed. I was cooking, cleaning, taking care of the household, on top of making sure she did her homework, making sure she got up and went to school. I had to know where she was at all times. I had to make sure she wasn't getting into trouble. Anything that my sister did was a reflection of me, period. So I've already raised a kid. I don't want to do it again. Well, it's different when you're a mom. That's great, but I still don't want to do it.
I think this is called eldest daughter syndrome, if I'm not wrong, where like the oldest daughter has to take care of the younger siblings to the point where she feels like she has already had a child and raised a child and she has no desire to do it again. I would not want to be in a position where I was forced to raise my siblings. I'm the youngest child, and my oldest brother is 15 years older than me, and he has stories of taking care of me, some of the things that he used to do for me, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm glad that I never had to be a caretaker for any of my siblings, because what about my own life? What about my own desires as a child growing up? You should not have those responsibilities at all.
I have been practicing celibacy for 8 years now. It has led me to being consciously single. And I say consciously because I know what I'm doing. I have the intentions on saying no to others and saying yes to myself. Because when I say yes to myself, I'm saying yes to accountability. I'm saying yes to responsibility, and I'm saying yes to self-respect. And that is such a revolutionary act when you choose yourself, when you honor yourself, when you respect yourself. I no longer believe in the lies. I no longer believe in a fairy tale, this illusion of romanticism, and putting that as the pinnacle of my life. I don't need to wait on love because I am love. I operate from love. I don't need to wait on permission to be myself. I have taken my power back by being my own happiness, finding my hobbies, finding what brings me joy, what feels good for me. I stopped looking for a soulmate because I have found myself. And that is the revolution. When you say no to others and say yes to yourself, have the audacity to choose yourself, to put yourself on the top of the to-do list. Put your peace of mind on the top of the to-do list. Your mental health. It's about standing on business and standing on your own boundaries. You got to be real strict when it comes to you.
I love that point that she made where she's talking about taking relationships off of the pedestal. For many of us, we were brought up to think that once we become adults, we need to now be in a relationship and we need to now have a family as the automatic thing that you have to do. And many times we don't have that talk about how we even reach that point, the things that we need to do within ourselves. Do we love ourselves? How do we develop ourselves? Do we have hobbies? Do we have interests? Who are you as a person outside of that relationship, outside of being a mother, outside of having children? Because when we hear about family, we always hear about how we are pouring into another person. And if we have no one to pour into us, and if we were never taught to pour into ourselves, your mental health is going to take a hit.
Child-free people will never experience the joy of watching their child touch grass for the first time. Okay? But do parents know the joy of being 37, sleeping in, drinking coffee in silence, and then leaving the house on a moment's notice whenever you want? I think not. Unless your kids are grown and out the house, you don't know nothing about that. Or unless you're super uber rich and you got a nanny to take care of your kids. Ain't no way y'all know nothing about that. I think a lot of the reason a lot of people, well, the reason why I chose to be child free is because I want to say it's kind of for selfish reasons, even though it's not selfish to not want a kid. But it's mainly because I know that I wouldn't be a good mother. I've said it before. Like, if I had a child, I would probably put them on social media and use them and make money off of them. So that's not good parenting. So I know that I couldn't be a good parent, right? And I just love my freedom. That's the majority of what it is. I don't want to have to sit there and take an hour to leave the house. Or if I want to go somewhere and I can't take the kids and trying to find a babysitter, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to spend months worth of my paycheck on childcare. It's just not what I want to do. And number three, I can't afford to have a kid. Okay, I can barely afford to take care of myself right now.
She's so right. Do you see how many families are exploiting their children on social media for clicks and views and money? I've seen like this one mom, I forgot her name, and she had her baby on TikTok, and the baby was almost naked. This was a little girl. She was almost naked. And someone else was pointing out how many saves the video has. Like, can you imagine some of these sick and twisted people who would save a video of an almost naked little baby girl? And I'm just thinking, there needs to be stricter regulations on parents who exploit their kids for money. If you're making money off of your child, I think there needs to be some form of mandatory account that you have to pay a portion of whatever you earn in, and that child gets it when they're 18. At least it might make up for the years of free labor that these kids are doing for their parents.
5 reasons, though, while I love children, I don't want any. Number one, I have a pretty pessimistic worldview. I think the world sucks economically. People are struggling to afford their lifestyles. And I feel like that's only going to get worse for the time being. Socially, I'm Black. So whoever I would have a kid with, regardless of their color, my child would still be Black. And walking through life that way, it's not an experience I would want my child to have. It's not conversations that I would want to have because I don't feel like I should have those conversations. I don't think the world should be that way, yet that's what it is. So I don't want to pass on some of the hurt that comes with the Black experience, though it's fantastic. There are, lots of great things. There's lots of bad things. So no thanks. Environmentally, world's in shambles. And I'm not interested, bro. I think the world sucks. So why would I want to bring my child into that, Reason number 2, kids do not just stop at like the baby infant stage, no matter how freaking cute they are. You are a parent. You are raising somebody. You are cultivating their worldview. Every single word you say matters. It could be just a regular schmegular Tuesday for you, but that could be their villain origin story. Like, I just don't want that type of pressure. And we aren't perfect as humans. So I feel like it's sort of inevitable to try and like not to traumatize your kid, but you end up doing it. So it's just like, no thanks. Reason number 3 is I know myself very well, and I don't think I would have the bandwidth. I really don't. The idea of coming home from work and having to do homework, having to make a well-balanced meal when I thrive off of a good girl dinner, sometimes no dinner at all. It's just, I don't want the responsibilities of being a parent, and having a 9 to 5 in the corporate world takes a lot out of me. Maintaining my social life and a future relationship, I feel like I'm just going to be fulfilled. I don't think that I need to have children. And that goes into point number 4, being that kids are optional. I grew up always wanting kids. Like, it was just, I'm going to have kids, point blank, period. My culture reinforced that. But I just got to 25, honestly. And I said, wait, I have a choice. And I thought about it. And I just think raising a child is such a task. It is. And it's, you don't know what type of kid you're going to get. You have to tailor everything to your child. And it's just, I just think it's one of the hardest jobs in the world. Also, one of the most rewarding, but I just thought, in my opinion, critically about having a kid. And I was just like, yeah, just because I can doesn't mean I have to. So I'm choosing not to. And reason number 5 is I am not attached to my genetics and my genetic makeup. Like, I don't care to have a lineage, not a legacy, because those 2 words be fucking y'all up. But yeah, if I ever change my mind and decide I want to be a mom,
there are options. I can adopt. I can foster. I don't have to physically push a kid out of me, which is, a bonus reason. Let's make that reason number 6. Having a kid can be life-threatening. Postpartum just ain't it. And again, as a Black woman, it's just not it. But yeah, I would overall like to make someone's life better, rather than bringing a child into the world that I don't love, for things that are just so out of my control, that having a kid is within my control and I'm choosing not to do it. It just hurts too much to think about what can happen to my kid, unbeknownst to me, and just naturally. It's just like, no, I don't want that. So yeah, I love kids, but I won't be having them.
I am 34 years old and I have been married for 9 years, and my husband and I decided not to have kids because one of our core values is freedom. Let me explain. When my husband and I started dating, we both fell in love with how independent we were and how dedicated we were to our careers and our ambition and our purpose and our devotion to our own individual happiness. So early on, I was, 24 when we were dating. We decided that we were not interested in having kids. But I also knew that I am very young and I may change my mind. So I never made any definitive decision. I just said, yes, not having children sounds really, really nice, but I can't promise you that at 24. As time went on, we saw a lot of our friends having kids and my siblings having kids, and it reinforced the decision of not having kids for us because we saw just how much it changes your lifestyle. And my husband and I have an amazing life. Like, we do whatever we want. We've even lived in our own apartments in New York City while being happily married. And we've moved across the country from New York to LA. We bought a house in Seattle that we are now renting out to move back to LA because of work. And we are both able to be untethered and move based on our careers, based on what we want in life. Not to say that you can't do those things while having kids, but kids are expensive. And I don't know if we would be able to be homeowners in our 30s if we had kids. And I don't know if we would be able to travel as much as we do if we had kids. And we were both raised in the generation with immigrant parents who had to work so incredibly hard to just afford the bare minimum of the life that we both got to live. And we both felt neglected. I think that a child deserves to come into this world with parents who are fully excited and devoted to the child and putting the child's wants and needs first. The child deserves that. And until we are ready to do that for another human being, we choose to be child-free. So follow along if you're interested in the DINK lifestyle, which just means dual income, no kids, and see how we are living our life child-free.
So I'm finally getting around to discussing more on why I decided to be child-free. And the main reason is I don't view parenthood and parent-child relationships like a lot of people. I don't see children as an extension of their parents. Thus, I wouldn't see my child as an extension of myself. I wouldn't have my child and birth them with expectations and demands of their lifestyle choice, of their career choice, of who they are as individuals and how they choose to operate in the world. To me, parenthood would be about giving the child I voluntarily chose to bring into this world every tool at my disposal, and I have very high standards for that. The tools they need to be savvy in this life, to be successful in this life. And that is a lot. That's very taxing. Children are also very needy. And because I feel like this about parenthood, and I think a lot of people are very selfish for the reasons they have children. They want legacy. They want somebody to take care of them when they're older. They want shallow reasons like me is they want a mini me, somebody they can dress in cute matching outfits. And that's not a good reason to have a child. I don't think the reward would be worth the risk. And don't get me wrong, I love children. I have plenty of children in my life that I can nurture and that I can assist with in rearing. I just don't want any for myself. I think that children are super needy. I don't like being touched a lot. I don't like people in my personal space a lot. And I think it would drive me literally insane to have someone who literally can't fend for themselves. They need me to literally survive. can't see that for myself. It would totally rearrange my life in the worst way. And it will also uproot every ounce of freedom I constantly work for. And if more people viewed, parenthood the way I view it, you would think twice about choosing to take care of someone and give them all of yourself for nothing. I vividly recall as a kid not even really wanting to be here. Earth is ghetto. I can't justify bringing a child into this world and, having to deal with this world's shit. I just can't, and I won't. I grew up in a super religious household. And so I grew up like, this shit does not make sense. I don't like it. Why am I here? So I don't have that, oh, your parents brought you here, you should be grateful. No, I spent a lot of my childhood wishing I wasn't here. Like, I would rather be somewhere else. Send me into another better dimension. But that pretty much sums it up.
I love the point that she makes about parents having kids for selfish reasons. If you're having a child because you want somebody to take care of you when you get older, that is a selfish reason. That is you saying that you're going to create a human being that you did not have to, and you are going to now put that expectation of care on that child, so that child cannot live their own life. They need to be tied to you in your old age, versus you can make a plan for your old age that does not include your child having to be the one to take care of you. And a lot of parents that force their kids into these situations, those kids end up resenting the parents. They end up spending so much of their adult lives taking care of their parents to the point where they did not get to have lives of their own. And that is extremely selfish.
I'm a child free. Every day is a self-care day for me. I'm a child free. Kids don't give me goosebumps. They give me anxiety. I'm a child free. And the generational curses will end with me. I'm a child free. I find every opportunity to nurture my inner child. I'm a child free. If I have to choose an archetype, it's definitely gonna be the rich auntie. I'm a child free. And I don't like working for free. This is how I knew parenthood was not for me. I'm a child free. I never had baby fever before. Guess I'm not that sick of the head. I'm a child free. I actually enjoy alone time. Silence is my favorite noise. I'm a child free. No, I will not be changing my mind because I actually use my critical thinking skills. I'm a child free. And kids sounds like a burden to me.
Don't have kids of your own. Do your nieces and nephews make you want to have kids or no?
A few weeks ago, my brother called me to ask for my professional opinion on Travel Tuesday, and he was planning to go to Bali. He's a parent of 2 that are under 10, and he was going with his friends that also have kids that are all under 10. So when he said he wanted to go to Bali, I was like, are the kids going? And he was like, no, it's an adult only trip. It's like, okay. So I said, how long are you going to be there? And he says 7 days is how much time that we can take. My brother does work for himself, and so does some of the other people that were going on the trip, but he just didn't want to be away from the kids for more than 7 days. So I was like, okay. And I said, well, it takes at least a day to get there and at least a day to get back because they're located near my hometown, which is in New Jersey. And I said, okay, that leaves you with 5 days out of your 7 days, but then there's also a 12-hour time difference. So do you plan on sleeping? And he said, yes, it's vacation. I said, okay, great. So you're going to at least have 1 day where you're going to be resting out of those 5 days. So it's really 4 days. And he said, well, we don't really want to be on a flight for that long. So how about we break up the travel so that we can stop somewhere that's like kind of midway? And I was like, oh, you were interested in Istanbul. So how about you stop in Istanbul? And he was like, okay. And I was like, all right, so how long do you want to be there? And he was like, well, at least a day and a half. And I was like, okay, let's round up to 2. So we went from 5 days in Bali to now 2.5-ish because of the stop and also the rest days. So as I'm explaining this to him, I'm like, yeah, I don't really think this is feasible unless you want to extend your trip. Before we had this whole talk, I already knew I wasn't going to have kids, but that conversation solidified it for me because there is no way I'm I'm going to fly across the world to be there for 3 days. Now, if you're someone that's done that before, guess what? I don't care and I'm not talking to you. But if you've been following me for a while, then you probably know that I plan my trips like days, if not a week, maybe before they happen sometimes. So there is no way I would give up what I currently have to not only have children, but to raise them. That's a whole different story. And I thoroughly believe that my nieces and nephews are the best kids on this planet, but I would never, ever have children. Ever.
As a 47-year-old divorced woman who is child-free by choice, I thought it would be helpful for other women to share about my own journey and how I got there. Now, growing up, I was never one of those kids that like adored younger kids or babies. I mean, I could appreciate them, but I never felt this longing to like spend every minute with them. I was never like that kid that always wanted to babysit. I was never like the baby monster, anxiously awaiting the day I could have my own. In my 20s, I started dating a guy that was actually 6 years older than me. So I was seeing, his friends, his older cousins, his brother, they were beginning to have children. And let me tell you, the realities did not look fun. And what's strange is it's a reality that isn't widely talked about. I mean, at best in movies and in TV shows, like the difficulties are shown in like this cutesy, haha, funny way. But our culture, represents parenthood as this really noble, soul-satisfying endeavor. So when people don't have that same experience, I think a lot of them feel shame around that, and that keeps them quiet. But like I saw it and I felt it, that strain and contempt it injects into marriages. I saw the lasting effects on women's bodies and I heard the conversations about it. I deeply understood that parenthood irrevocably changes your life in a way you cannot control. Because now there's this tiny human that comes first 24/7. And I got to thinking, I don't think I want to do this. In my late 20s, I split up from that boyfriend and I was out there dating and I was open to the idea of having kids. I mean, if I would have met a guy who really wanted kids and I was really in love with him, I think I could have been talked into it. But in a few short months, I would meet a guy who later became my husband, and he actually had kids from his first marriage. They were teenagers, so he didn't want any more kids. And then I entered into a world of other people who had kids that were older, like late elementary school to teenagers. And I saw that it actually doesn't get easier when they get older. In fact, it's the opposite, because by that time, that's when the strain of parenthood had destroyed so many marriages. And now people are navigating single parenthood and dating or remarrying. And I can't tell you, honestly, how many times people told me, it's really smart that you're not having children. I can't tell you how many people freely admitted to me that they actually regretted having children. They loved their kids, but they hated their lives as a parent. They loved their kids, but there were so many things they wish they had known going into it and done differently, namely marry differently. In the time that I was married to my ex, I saw a lot of parents celebrate their kids, but I also saw a lot of parents bury their kids. I saw that parenting doesn't end at 18 and you still feel that moment of panic anytime you get a late night phone call. I now know women years later that are dealing with health complications from pregnancy, and it's all very common stuff. I would never, ever judge anyone else's decision to have kids. But for me, I'm very secure in the decision I made to not have kids.
She touched on a point that I want to reiterate. It does not get easier as they get older. It does not. It might be easier in the sense of they can feed themselves, they can take a bath by themselves, they can talk and they can tell you what's wrong with them versus crying all the time. But parenting as a task, as something that you have to do every day, looking out for that child every single day for years on end. It does not get easier as a child gets older, because when the child gets older, now you have different challenges as the child ages. Now the child was crying when they were a baby, and now they move on to going to school, and now they have issues with friendships, and now you have to help them navigate friendships, and then they become teenagers and they want to date, and you have to help them navigate that. They become young adults and you have to help them with college and with it does not get easier. It changes, it becomes something different as they age, but definitely not easier.
I don't know if this is a serious comment or if it is just a troll trying to get attention, but this is crazy to me. And it's crazy to me the comments that I got on my video about being 38 and not wanting kids. It's so interesting to me how that is so hard for some people to comprehend. I know that I don't want kids, like I know that the sky is blue. I am more sure of it every year of my life. People always say, like, oh, but you might change your mind. Every year that passes, the more sure I am that I am making the right decision for myself. And I don't understand why some people care so much whether somebody else procreates or not, especially somebody that they don't know. And the people who say that if you don't have kids, you're missing out on the meaning of life and life's purpose. In this day and age, I believe that you can find purpose through so many different areas. I find purpose through my work that I do in recovery. I find purpose in my career. I find purpose in my relationship with my family. I find purpose in my relationships with my friends. I find purpose in things that I do in my community. I find purpose when I go and travel the world and experience different cultures. I find purpose in my spiritual life. I mean, there's so many ways to be fulfilled without having kids. There is 0% part of me that feels like I want to be responsible for another human life for the rest of my life. I mean, truly, I just don't have that maternal thing. I always say I have it for my dog. It's fulfilled by my dog. I love my dog so much. And I know that dogs aren't people, but the fact that other people care so much and need everybody to hold their same views is just wild to me. If you ever come across a woman who says she doesn't want kids and she's sure about it, that's the end of the discussion.
I wanted to address this comment right here because it's one that I get a lot. I don't think anyone in the history of the world who's ever been pregnant with a child has said, I want to get pregnant so that I have a caretaker when I'm 80. I really don't understand the amount of people who comment this in my comment section and actually believe this. So I have a friend who's a palliative care nurse, and she says that hands down, the most lonely people in the palliative care ward are parents. Typically, the most lonely elderly people in her palliative care ward are parents who have really strained relationships with their kids. Others have great relationships with their kids, but the kids just don't visit anyways, and they wonder what they've done wrong. Recently, one of the most well-loved people in her palliative care ward is an elderly child-free woman. She has tons of friends visiting her all of the time and just loves her life. Her husband's at the palliative care ward with her and treats her like a gem. Me being a child-free woman just assumes that people who want kids just really love children and want to foster a nice family unit at home and enjoy their offspring, not give birth to caretakers to prepare themselves for their old age. And I really hope that people who think like this person aren't out judging us all because we didn't have kids. I mean, what a sad thing to look at somebody who doesn't have children. You don't know what their life situation is. Like, they could be infertile. Can we be a little bit more sensitive and caring? And I also wonder about people like this person here who comments stuff like this. I mean, what happens if you're young and you try to have children and you can't have kids? Do you regret comments like this? And what if your kids are annoying and you don't want them bothering you at the nursing home? And to the rest of you who say that you're sick of my child-free content, I feel like I've started a discussion with my audience that they really enjoy. And there's a lot of child-free women out there who just really appreciate this safe space. So really, you don't have to worry about me. I'm good.
Reason number 4 for why I chose to be child free forever. I honestly know that I would not be a good parent or a parent that I was proud of. Whenever I say this to someone, they're always like, oh, no one knows what they're doing. You'll learn on the go. It'll become instinct, or your instincts will, kick in as a mom. And although I believe part of that to be true, like I know that I would want to protect my kids and look out for them and, do a lot of things instinctively. I also know that there is a ton of work that I have not done on myself yet that would hinder me from being a good parent. If you're wondering what that work is, it's basically anger management, for example. Like, I don't get angry very often, but I do get frustrated very quickly. I'm impatient. I like people around me to learn things really quickly. And even though I don't get angry very often, when I do, I tend to explode. So I would not want to explode with kids, with my kids, with any kids. And I think that it would scar them for life, no matter how sorry I was, or no matter how much I apologized or explained why it happened later on. Once something is done, it's done. I also know that my inner child is not healed. I went through a lot as a child, so I have a lot of trauma built in. And because I'm just not over a lot of things, even though I've gotten so much better over the years, I'm not there. And I don't think that I would be a good parent because it would be like trying to heal myself while I'm trying to teach something else to someone else. And I don't think I could do it.
Child-free people, prepare to be angry when you see this BS. This child-free is different than someone who suffers from infertility or just didn't meet the right person. That's true. The difference between being child-free is a person who is child-free, they choose to not have kids. A person who's childless is someone who does want kids, unfortunately, but they can't. They suffer from infertility issues. People who are child-free are actively narcissistic and self-centered consumers. First off, is that how you spell consumers? Asking for a friend. And second, how dare she come for child-free people like that? How dare she even have that thought process coming on in her mind? People who are just unfortunately couldn't have children but understand the value of children and family usually find other ways to genuinely help the next generation. Basically, what she's saying there is that child-free people don't do that. Child-free people don't help other people. Child-free people don't care about the next generation in the community. How false is that statement? What gets me is that this is truly the biggest contradiction, because for her to even say that tells me that she's most likely a narcissist. Okay. And either she has kids and she regrets it, but y'all, wait, it gets worse. See what Sweet Lola said? And Mega comes and says, there's something inherently wrong with you. That's the point of my tweet. How dare she come for somebody like that? If anyone's the narcissist, definitely Mega. And I'm really pissed off at that. Like, I can't stand people like this. Just bring positivity into the world, okay? Nobody wants that drama that you're bringing.
As an early 30s person who has had the great debate many, many times as to whether or not I want children, one thing that I've been surprised as I get a bit older that has really impacted my leaning toward not having kids, strongly leaning toward not having kids, is the fact that I have older parents. So I turned 31 in a few weeks, and my dad is 73 this year. So he was older when he had me. My mom was 33 when she had me. So she's, not a young mom by any means. And so with that comes part of my thinking that if I wanted kids, I almost wish I would have done it earlier in life so that I wouldn't have been an older parent like my parents were older parents. Does that make sense? I think that there are just some sort of unique challenges at this point in your life when you have older parents that for people with like young, healthy family just don't understand it. Like I see people around my age who are still hiking and riding bikes and doing all of these things with their parents. And I I just can't even fathom being able to do that. And so with the decision to have kids or not comes with like, I wouldn't have parent help if I had kids. I don't have this grand circle of people, older family members who watch my kids. Grandparents dead, parents old, lots of health problems. My dad has Parkinson's. My mom spent all of her time taking care of my dad. They wouldn't be around if I had a kid. I don't have this big circle of people. And so when I look to my friends who have kids and I think are doing a really good job with them, I also see that they have a lot of family help. That's not a thing for me. And so I wonder if there are other people who have older parents who have kind of thought through this process and thought like, yeah, that's not what it's going to look like if I have kids. And I think maybe I have a tiny bit of bitterness, or I don't know what to call it, but something around the fact that I had older parents and I wouldn't want to do that to my kids. And like, I'm 31, it's just clock would be ticking.
I have made my way to mom talk or baby talk or child free talk. I am married. I've been married for 3 years and we do not want children. Now, before I got with my husband, I was never gung ho like about kids. Like, I love kids, I love children. Like, bring me your child, I will take care. But I never was the type of woman that was like, oh my God, I can't wait to be married. Or, oh my God, I can't wait to be a mom. And I've been doing some work in therapy about trying to figure that out. But I want to just encourage young women who feel like it's something wrong with me because I haven't been like fiending for kids. It's nothing wrong with you, babe. There's nothing wrong with you. There are really maybe 3 reasons, high level. There are many more that I can go to. But for the sake of this video, there are 3 reasons why I wouldn't want children. The first is they don't fit into my lifestyle. I am turning 37, Scorpio season, in like 2 weeks. And the life that I built for myself does not allow for children. Number 2 is I really just want a baby. Okay, hold on. For y'all still, send it to the comments. Like 0 to 4 me, please. And then I would want like an adult child, 25 and up. They seem like they'd be a good time. Especially my kids. They're going to have personality. But that in between formidable years, return to sender. And it's not even like I don't despise children in age, because I don't. I love all kids. It is the energy and the time and the sacrifice that it takes. So I'm not about to have a child and give them less than 100%. And then finally, I am not interested in being pregnant, giving birth. Auntie first, bad bitch immediately after.
I think the bottom line here is that this is a decision that we all have to make for ourselves, and do not let anyone bully you or try to convince you or gaslight you or manipulate you into having kids if you don't want to, or into not having if you want to. I think we all live different lives. We all have different realities. We deal with different things in our lives. We come from different backgrounds. And if you're going to make such a life changing decision, I really think that you should think about not just the fun parts of it, but the parts of it that are not so fun, and make an informed decision and not an emotional one. And love and loving someone is not a good enough reason to have a child, because let's be honest, even when you are in a relationship and you love your partner, there are times when you just don't like them. There are times when there are issues that are going on and they need to be fixed. And that's not something that you can do with a child. If you have a child, that child is your responsibility, regardless of how you're feeling, regardless of whether or not that child made you upset. You don't get to opt out just because you're not feeling like it that day. You would be considered a bad parent. And like so many of these women can admit, they don't think that they would be good mothers. And if you know yourself and you know that you will not be a good mother, just leave parenting alone.